Hello, and welcome to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. I'm Ethan Foster, and today we'll be discussing a new study that examines the link between flame-retardant chemicals and brain tumors in firefighters. I'm joined by my co-host, Ilara Sky, who has a background in natural health. Together, we'll break down these findings and talk about how they could affect everyday exposure to these chemicals.
It's good to be here, Ethan. This study is quite revealing. Researchers from the University of California, San Francisco discovered a unique genetic mutation in the brain tumors of firefighters directly linked to flame-retardant chemicals. These mutations got worse the longer the person was exposed. That fact alone tells us there's a strong correlation between cumulative chemical exposure and aggressive brain tumors like gliomas.
Gliomas are indeed among the most common and dangerous forms of malignant brain tumors. They grow aggressively and often lead to symptoms like headaches, vision problems, seizures, memory issues, and severe disability if untreated. The study you mentioned specifically identified a pattern of DNA mutations associated with haloalkane chemicals, which are present in flame retardants, pesticides, and certain fire suppression foams.
Exactly. What stands out is that even non-firefighters who worked in jobs like painting or mechanics had tumors with the same mutation. That clearly points to the broader presence of flame retardants and other toxic chemicals in various industries. It's also a powerful reminder that none of us are completely isolated from these substances, since they're found in plenty of household items, not just in firefighting gear or industrial materials.
That's an important point, because it shifts the conversation from occupational risk to everyday risk. These flame-retardant chemicals break down over time, releasing particles into your home's dust. They can be inhaled or absorbed through the skin. For firefighters, the exposure is clearly more intense, but the average person also deals with these chemicals if their furniture, electronics, carpeting, or children's products have been treated with flame retardants.
The genetic fingerprint that scientists identified is particularly concerning. They found specific DNA damage in critical genes that regulate cell growth. When these genes are compromised, cells grow unchecked, which can lead to tumor development. This type of damage was more pronounced in firefighters who had more years on the job. But as you pointed out, the study also noted similar mutations in individuals exposed to pesticides or petroleum products in other occupations.
Given how widespread flame retardants are, it's worth considering where they show up in our daily lives. Furniture, especially older couches and chairs, are a notorious source. Many mattresses, particularly those produced more than a decade ago, were also infused with flame retardants. Electronics, carpets, and even children's car seats often contain these chemicals. As these items age, the flame retardants slowly migrate into the air and dust we encounter every day.
Research shows that these chemicals don't simply remain inert. They enter the body through our lungs or skin and can accumulate over time. The consequences are not just limited to cancer risk. They also affect thyroid function, hormone balance, and can lead to developmental problems. Young children are especially vulnerable because their bodies are still growing, and they spend more time on the floor, putting them in closer contact with dust and carpeted surfaces.
So, the logical next question is how we reduce exposure, especially for children. One practical step is to replace older furniture and bedding that might contain flame retardants. If that's not financially feasible, using tightly woven covers on cushions and mattresses is an alternative. Look for labels that say, free of added flame retardants, or consider organic materials like 100% wool, or products certified by the Global Organic Textile Standard, known as GOTS.
A good habit is to keep household dust to a minimum, since that dust can carry chemical particles. Use a vacuum with a HEPA filter. Mop rather than sweep, and keep the air flowing with open windows whenever weather permits. Avoid stain-resistant or wrinkle-free fabrics, as those treatments often involve more chemicals. When it comes to children's products, like car seats, nursing pillows, or play mats, choose items labeled as flame retardant-free or carrying organic certifications.
Another angle mentioned in Dr. Mercola's analysis is how certain hormones or hormone-like substances can help offset the potential damage caused by flame retardants. Specifically, These chemicals can interfere with the body's endocrine system, mimicking estrogen. There's a suggestion that supplementing with natural progesterone could be one way to counter some of those disruptions. However, the key takeaway still points back to reducing exposure in the first place.
Right. And that ties back into a broader conversation about limiting endocrine disrupting chemicals wherever possible. The connection between flame retardants and hormone disruption aligns with findings on other environmental toxins as well. It's not just one single exposure we're dealing with, but rather a cumulative effect from multiple sources, from cleaning products to personal care items. Taking small steps to minimize your overall toxic burden adds up over time.
We should also recap why firefighters in particular face such a heightened risk. Their regular encounters with burning materials, flame retardant foams, and smoke-containing combustion byproducts create a high-exposure environment. This new study not only confirmed a link to glioma, but also identified the specific DNA fingerprint of damage caused by haloalkanes. That's a significant piece of evidence demonstrating that these chemicals directly mutate genes that regulate cell growth.
Indeed. Understanding that these same chemicals appear in everyday household products emphasizes why average families should also pay attention. While the levels may be far lower than those a firefighter faces, the long-term, low-level exposure can still have serious health implications. And because children breathe in more air per pound of body weight and engage with dust on the floor, their total exposure can be quite significant compared to adults.
Let's go through a quick summary for listeners who might be looking for the most direct action steps. First, consider replacing or covering older mattresses and couches, focusing on newer products that state they're free of added flame retardants. Second, keep your home clean with a HEPA filter vacuum and regular mopping to reduce dust. Third, avoid products labeled stain-resistant, water-repellent, or wrinkle-free, since these can signal the presence of chemical treatments.
Fourth, pay particular attention to children's items. Look for certifications like GOTS for clothing, bedding, and similar products. This ensures they're made with organic materials and haven't been treated with harmful chemicals. Finally, be conscious of ventilation in your home and consider whether targeted supplementation with natural progesterone might help balance potential hormonal disruptions. This should be part of a broader approach to wellness, focused on limiting exposure and supporting the body's natural detox mechanisms.
In terms of broader implications, this research adds to the growing evidence that the materials in our immediate environment can contribute to serious illnesses over time. We shouldn't assume that a product is safe just because it's on a store shelf. Reviewing labels, understanding the manufacturing process, and making informed decisions are all crucial steps if we want to protect ourselves and our families.
That's absolutely correct. It's also vital for manufacturers and regulatory bodies to recognize these findings and rethink whether flame retardant treatments are always necessary. There are often safer alternatives, like naturally flame-resistant wool bedding, that meet safety standards without exposing people to hazardous chemicals. The science is catching up to what many health-conscious individuals have been saying for years. Artificial chemical interventions can have unintended consequences for human health.
To wrap up, remember that these changes don't have to happen overnight. You can start with the most significant sources of exposure, like your sofa or your bed, and work your way through other items over time. If you have children, prioritize the products they come into contact with the most. Each small step reduces your total chemical load, which translates into a lower risk of potential health complications down the line.
And if you know someone who is a firefighter, mechanic, painter, or in another profession with high chemical exposure, sharing this information could be life-changing for them. The link between flame retardants and brain tumors is no longer speculative. We now have clear genetic evidence that a cumulative exposure can lead to harmful mutations. By raising awareness and taking proactive steps to minimize exposure, we can all contribute to better health outcomes.
That's a great point to end on. Thank you, Alara, for helping us dive into this research and its implications. This has been another episode of Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. I'm Ethan Foster, and we appreciate you tuning in to learn about reducing flame retardant exposure. We hope this conversation offers useful insights that you can apply in your own life. Stay informed, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you again in our next episode.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe now and click the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.